been a wonderful, wonderful journey for myself, and what my assignment for today was really to try to bring together what the financial services industry and the representatives that have been visiting with you today, how this all comes together in the context of the impact that we all have on the global marketplace. And so even though I'm going to give you a brief reference on CME Group just to bring it all to roost and make it relevant in terms of how you could have an impact on this industry, everybody here today has touched that in some way, shape, or form and plays a very fundamental role on the impact of global finance. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So first of all, how many of you are familiar with the CME Group? Well, that's great. Very good. And how many of you are doing internships possibly with our firm? Fabulous. And how are you liking it? Good so far? Good. That's good to hear. Well, you know, you're very lucky people, all of you, to be involved in internships because already your networking has begun for you. There's no question about it. And I hope you realize how lucky you are in terms of the exposures that you're getting and helping yourselves think about and get situated for your future. So each and every one of us that are speaking with you today, we've been in your shoes. We didn't end up in the roles that we're performing today. This has been, for myself, a 35-year investment. And as you heard John allude to, black jackets, I'll get into that a little later on in terms of bringing all of this back. But let's start with who we are and what we represent. So on a daily basis at the CME Group, we trade, settle, and clear on average about 16 million contracts a day. In putting it in perspective of notional value of what's traded, cleared, and settled, it's about $1 quadrillion worth of notional business in a year. And that didn't just happen overnight. Our history is now 169 years, and it's the combination and the bringing together of several of the world's most well-known institutions in the world, and that would be CME, Chicago Board of Trade, the New York Mercantile Exchange, the Commodities Exchange, and then finally the Kansas City Board of Trade. And that's an evolution that took quite a bit of time and development, and I'm proud to say that I was able to play a major role in the bringing together of those institutions. Why do we exist? I don't want to get to the corn picture yet. Risk. So risk is a small word, right? Well, risk is it's a very big issue. It's a big issue for everybody. We all have risk exposure in some way, shape, or form. How many of you think that what you do in terms of your living today is impacted by what we represent at CME Group? Raise your hands. Not everybody. Well, I can tell you every one of you are impacted in some way, shape, or form. You eat cereal. You pay interest rates on something or other. You want to own a house someday. You have cars. Everybody likes to get on a plane, I would assume, and take trips. That takes fuel. So what we represent is all of those participants in these markets in some way, shape, or form look towards markets such as our own to be able to manage that risk. And it's done through a variety of ways. You know, first of all, you have people like Joe Guinan, and you'll have Jennifer Wilson shortly come up, and they're a big part of that ecosystem in terms of providing markets and ensuring that liquidity exists in these markets every day so that the world can come and be able to manage the risks, whether it's the farmer who, when he's planting his crop, he's exposed each and every year at harvest time. Of course, he's hoping to get the very best price for his crop, and so he's hedging himself on a forward basis in these markets to manage that risk. If, by market fundamentals or whatnot, things either turn out to his favor or they don't, that he manages and he minimizes his risk exposure. The same thing goes for the processor of that grain to make your cereal. And so that's just kind of putting it in perspective in terms of who are the types of people, who are the users that come into these markets, and how are they represented with us? People that manage your pension funds, right? Asset managers. All of those types of entities look towards these markets because we represent the broadest array of asset classes virtually in every aspect of commodities, whether it be energy, agricultural. On the rate side, we cover interest rate exposure from 30 days upwards to 30 years, all the foreign currencies, equity indices. So a wide array of products that we represent. Now, what does that mean to all of you in terms of opportunity, and how does someone such as yourself possibly consider a career in this industry? Well, as John alluded to, I started 30-odd years back, and I remember coming into this institution and wondering, what did I get myself into? I came home to my parents after I got my job as an investigator, and I was 22 years of age, and I literally, I'll admit, broke into tears when I got home, and I said, this is not for me. I don't know. They're talking about spreads, and I have no idea what this is all about. I thought I could thrive in this, but it's too confusing for me. And I remember my father saying, get your act together, get your ass out the door tomorrow, and smile and just learn and listen, and I bet you any money you'll be able to persevere. And don't be afraid of the math, because you have a much bigger mathematical mind than you ever gave yourself credit, and this is going to challenge you in that respect. So I listened to it, and within time began to learn the business, and this was at the time where there was no computers. And I was in the Office of Investigations and Audits, and so our job was to monitor the activities of people on the trading floor as well as the member firms that were bringing business to our exchange, and we did it looking at data runs. So yeah, I'm dating myself, but there's a bit of a journey there because it opened me up to opportunities that I never expected would exist. As the years went on, as an investigator, I ultimately became the head of the division of investigations, and then over time became the administrator over all of audits, financial surveillance, market surveillance, and investigations. But what I was also able to be exposed to was technology, and that was an area that I'd never had experience in. My background was in business administration. I did think I would end up in some way, shape, or form in the financial services sector, but I ended up moving more towards the development of technology, and it was really to solve some regulatory challenges that we were encountering in terms of audit trail and the ability to more precisely designate times for all the transactions that were occurring in our trading pits. How many of you had seen Trading Places? Quite a few. It's a good movie. You should see it. So they were time-stamping orders, and the locals were recording the trades in their trading cards, and we had something called time brackets, and the government was saying, you got to do a better job of imputing the time of execution for every trade, and so I got involved in the development of some electronic order routing technology and the development of TOPS and then handheld devices and whatnot to help us evolve and develop this institution. Well, that cascaded itself into the development of our electronic trading systems and going through the journey of bringing our markets from open outcry to electronic trading and introducing electronic trading into that paradigm. So my point in taking you through all of this is you never know what path you're going to go in your career. I started out as a regulator and then started moving more towards technology and operations. Before I knew it, I moved from being the head of market regulation into becoming the chief operating officer for the exchange, and then was exposed to the opportunities of moving ourselves from a member-run organization to a for-profit organization, and then turning the company public, and then being involved in the facilitation of the mergers between the CME Group and the Chicago Board of Trade, and then ultimately handling the integrations and the acquisition of NYMEX and into CME Group. So, I'm kind of throwing all of this stuff at you saying, I started out as a young kid sitting in the chair just like you, trying to figure out, well, what's that destiny going to be and what's that future going to be? And I can tell you without a doubt, if you persevere, if you network, you keep hearing network, and you're in the perfect positions today in the roles that you're performing to be able to network with your respective organizations. Be a very active listener. Pay attention to what your colleagues and the people are asking you to do. Be patient. Don't have overly high expectations in terms of where you think that journey should be taking you. Don't feel that you're entitled to anything because you're not entitled. Okay, you're just not. We're all very, very lucky. We have great educations. You're here today with a great opportunity, hearing from tremendous presenters that are giving you some, hopefully, nuggets of advice and wisdom, and we hope you take that home with you. But be patient. One of the things that I was really excited to see, we did some analysis on what are the millennials looking for in terms of their careers. And while some have suggested that, the younger generation has, way too many high expectations, this information was really very heartening to me, and I plan on distributing it more so to my management team in the context of what's important to you. And what I was really heartened to see was it's not all about salary and the initial job that you have. You're really very, very, very much so focused on career development and development opportunities. Well, when we talk about career development, that may very well mean as you journey onward, it's not always about the next promotion. So when your colleagues or your bosses or whatnot might suggest to you to make a lateral move into something, take it. Don't just sit there and say, well, what's in it for me? How much is the salary increase? Am I going to become a senior director or be an executive director? That rings really hollow with me because you're taking on more skill. You're getting exposed to broader responsibilities. And the broader exposure that you get to things in whatever career you select, I tell you, ultimately those other things come your way. But you have to be patient. You have to be perseverant. I loved when you said, Joe, humble and humility. That goes a long way in terms of your development. You have to be willing to listen. Be an active listener, okay? And also gather as much information as you can. I mean, really savor the opportunities that you have today as interns, right? Learn as much as you possibly can from that experience. It's going to be worth its weight in gold, I assure you. Thank you.